Welcome, and thank you for attending When There Are Nine. I am Charlene Welton, one of the nine, and lucky curator of this show. Inspiration for When There Were Nine was drawn from two major influences that have empowered women. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a woman who has been able to shape history throughout her life, and the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. And for me personally, my mom, the woman who empowered me. On September 11th, 2017, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "When I'm sometimes asked when there will be enough women on the Supreme Court, I say, when there are nine." People are shocked, but there have been 9 men, and nobody's ever raised a question about that. RBG's answer speaks to the constant questioning of women's leadership roles and the lack of general acceptance of women as true equals. We are honored to be celebrating International Women's Day with all of you today. Art is a central force in the lives of all the participating artists, and we hope that you are moved by what you see and feel today. We are thrilled to have a dynamic woman leader with us today. A woman who, like RBG, believes that women should be equal to men in the eyes of the law. She believes in women and has stated, "When women succeed, America succeeds," which is why it's critically important that we elect more women to office. Crain's Detroit Business listed her as one of the most influential women in Michigan. She has been involved in many organizations and community groups that benefit women, including the National Women's Health Resource Center, NIH Panel for Women's Research, Michigan Women Foundation, Michigan Women's Economic Club, and the Michigan Infant Mortality Task Force, just to name a few. She's a tireless fighter for working families in Michigan and an advocate for issues important to women and children. We are excited that she's here with us on International Women's Day. We warmly welcome her to the theater to celebrate When There Are Nine. Also Women's History Month and the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. I am proud and so honored to introduce to you Congressman Debbie Dingell.
Thank you for that wonderful, kind introduction, and hello to all the women and the men this afternoon. I did bump. I guess I'll give that right up front. I said about a week ago we need to start doing it, and then leaders need to lead by leading. And right now, the coronavirus is real, and we just need to think, and we can. AOC puts her hands on her heart, the kids are tapping their feet, and we can bump or just somehow send that message of love to everybody we know without hugging and handshaking right now. But it is great to see so many women here today to celebrate Women's International Women's Day. And it's really, the art, what a way to celebrate it with art, to let us give a loud applause for all 9 of the artists that and for the dance and the poetry and the music. What women contribute so much to arts and quality of life. So it's a wonderful way to celebrate this day. And I want to thank and acknowledge the Village Theater at Cherry Hill for hosting this, knowing its importance, and making it such a special afternoon. It's a community treasure, and I always love being here, so thank you for that. This, well, you can applaud that too. You know, this month, women of every age, race, and background come together to celebrate the many contributions of women who have made American history. I could say make America great again, but I can't do that. I'm trying not to be political. It used to be an innocent phrase. President Carter said it best. The achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and love of women who built America were as vital as the men whose names we know so well. So I say it's time for everyone to learn those women's names too. Throughout history, trailblazing women helped build this country. Each generation opened the doors wider for generations to come. 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, where only some women, it was a great advancement, but even then, only some women in this country got the right to vote. It was a fight that didn't come easy, but it was the result of women working hard, speaking up, and bringing people together to get it done, like women have always done and will always continue to do. Now, nearly a quarter of Congress is women, nearly, not a quarter. For the first time in our state's history, we have a Michigan governor, a Michigan attorney general, and a Michigan secretary of state. And the men kept saying, oh, we can't do that. Well, not only can't we do it, we did. You know, you were saying that this, you know, Ruth Ginsburg says, when will there be enough women? And she said 9. Why is it that nobody ever said, you can't run 3 men for governor, lieutenant governor, or secretary of state? And you know, women now hold 20% of the board seats in Michigan, not nationally. More women are the top earners in their households, and women are now tending to be more educated than the men, although I sometimes get with that statistic, because what does that mean? I think women have a lot more, no assault to the men, women have a lot more common sense any day of the week. But you know, I'll tell you a story. I miss my husband terribly, but he was the most important thing in my life, and I always took care of him. I never, ever, ever forgot what was the most important thing to me. So I was getting him dinner, and he needed some stuff, so I ran to a meeting of women legislators, and it was here in Michigan. And I was about to apologize, and I said, you know, I'm not going to apologize. It's who we are. We are caretakers and caregivers, and we juggle a lot of balls, and we keep our houses clean, and we do the grocery shopping, and we're the best at work because we know how to multitask. We know how to not fight, but just figure out how to get the job done and then get the job done. And we as women need to embrace that and be happy about it, not always making apologies, but appreciate that's who we are and why we need more women in different jobs, because we bring a different perspective and we try to solve the problems. True. We've made incredible advancements, but our work sure isn't finished. We learn, on average, less pay than the men do for the same work. Sexual harassment and, quite frankly, domestic violence are still too common in our society. And minority women experience barriers in every aspect of life. Discussions about issues impacting women is so important because we're in Congress, we're in the business world. We bring that voice I talked to you about. But you know, when I interviewed for my job at General Motors, and I am not old, I am seasoned. But it wasn't that long ago that when the man interviewed me, he said, why would a woman want to work at General Motors? So it wasn't that long ago that everybody, and Mary Barra and I worked side by side in several jobs. And now a woman is CEO of General Motors. It's true, it's something we should celebrate. But you know, we're 51% of the population, and as I just said to you, we're only about 25%, we're less than 25% of the Congress. So I want to say to you, as we're sitting here celebrating this, the Me Too movement has shined a magnifying glass on a lot of issues. But I say to people, the media and politics aren't the real world. And we're not. It's great that some people have the courage to come forward, but I'm in the Congress and I would never talk about some of the experiences I had because I would still pay a price. And if you're working on the factory floor, if you're a waitress and you need that job, if you're a lawyer or a doctor, saying anything is a threat to you. You might lose your job. You might, you say something at work. Now they say, oh, well, we got to listen. They listen, but you get labeled a troublemaker. And you don't get promoted, or you don't get that next job. We've got to get to a point where society knows what is right and what is wrong, and that everybody can go to work and feel safe. And we have a culture that doesn't allow what still happens every single day in this country to continue. And when that waitress and that factory floor waiter are as safe as a woman that's at one of the networks, then I'll say we're really making progress in this country. So on that sober note, I couldn't have a Women's Day and not talk about that. I want to celebrate the artists we're celebrating today. I want to celebrate, it's great being a woman. We've got it. We're really lucky. Would you want to be a man? Sorry, man. So let's celebrate International Women's Day, appreciate the art, and appreciate all that we are. And remember, as sisters, the Old Boys Network has been alive and well for a long time, and I love the Old Boys. They mentored me, but if we get as strong as the Old Boy Networks, you think about how we can help other women. Thank you, and thank you for including me.
What a powerhouse. Thank you, Congressman Debbie Dingell. I don't know, I think I'd like some of them man's muscles. That's what I would choose. I am very happy to welcome home and introduce our next performer. She is Brianna Yan, a Canton native, presently an assistant professor of dance at the University of Southern Mississippi. She received her MFA from the University of Arizona, her BFA in dance from SUNY Buffalo, and is a professional Fletcher Pilates teacher. Brianna has performed in and choreographed for numerous festivals and concerts in the United States and Mexico. She is an artist educator who seeks to blur the dance genre lines. Self-Portrait 2, choreographed and to be performed by Brianna, is her new solo dance work, reflecting her status as a woman living in Mississippi at the onset of the 2020s, a woman working and living apart from her family, her husband, and many of her friends. The music, Two for Joy, is by Anna Rose Carter. Original costume designed by Anthony Gary, and the poem From Matisse by Gertrude Stein. We are honored to have her share it with us today, and we warmly welcome Brianna back home and to the stage. Brianna Yan.
Matthew. One was quite certain that for a long part of his being living, he had been trying to be certain that he was wrong in doing what he was doing. And then, when he could not come to be certain that he had been wrong in doing what he had been doing, when he had completely convinced himself that he would not come to be certain that he had been wrong in doing what he had been doing, he was really certain then that he was a great one, and he certainly was a great one. Certainly everyone could be certain of this thing, that this one is a great one. This one was one very many were knowing some, and very many were glad to meet him. Very many sometimes listened to him. Some listened to him very often. There were some who listened to him, and he taught them, and he told them then that certainly he had been one suffering, and he was then being one trying to be certain that he was wrong in doing what he was doing, and he had come then to be certain that he never would be certain that he was doing what was wrong for him to be doing then. And he was suffering then, and he was certain that he would be one doing what he was doing, and he was certain that he should be one doing what he was doing, and he was certain that he would always be one suffering. And this then made him certain, that he would always be one being suffering. This made him certain that he was expressing something being struggling. And certainly very many were quite certain that he was greatly expressing something being struggling. This one was knowing some who were listening to him, and he was telling very often about being one suffering. And this was not a dreary thing to anyone hearing that then. It was not a saddening thing to anyone hearing it again and again. To some it was quite an interesting thing hearing it again and again. To some it was an exciting thing hearing it again and again. Some knowing this one and being certain that this one was a great man and was one clearly expressing something, were ones hearing this one telling about being one being living. We're hearing this one telling this thing again and again. Some who were ones knowing this one and were ones certain that this one was one who was clearly telling something, was a great man, were not listening very often to this one telling again and again about being one being living. Certainly some who were certain that this one was a great man, and one clearly expressing something and greatly expressing something being struggling, were listening to this one telling about being living, telling about this again and again and again. Certainly very many knowing this one and being certain that this one was a great man and that this one was clearly telling something, were not listening to this one telling about being living, were not listening to this one telling this again and again.
Thank you, Brianna, for that emotive and beautiful interpretation of a woman's life. Art often becomes a refuge for me. It's my way to communicate, express viewpoints and emotion, and bring awareness. I write for the same reasons. This poem is called Trees. Trees, holding up the cloud-filled sky, they reach for dreams and they cradle life. Trees, reaching above the ongoing fray, erect with dignity, exhaling so we can breathe. Trees, spreading their dancing seeds, the rains feeding their deep roots, bringing forth new, unblemished fruit and the possibility of a bright future. Trees, healing our neuroses, the leaves whispering their forgiveness, the branches providing a sheltering canopy for red dresses. Their beauty leading us out of the darkness and into the light. On display in this women's exhibit is my Red Dress series of paintings about missing and murdered Indigenous women called Loss. My goal was to carry on Jamie Black's work, a Canadian artist in my muse. Her red dress installations, actual dresses hanging in trees outside, have been displayed in both Canada and the United States. Her work has not only motivated me, but it has motivated legislators to introduce bills concerning the thousands of Indigenous women missing and murdered on Native American tribal lands. My series is about creating art as awareness, recognizing that there is an issue, and remembering those women of color lost to violent crimes committed against them, whether it's domestic violence, racial discrimination, rape, or hate. Some of those red dress paintings will be displayed in the background as our next guest, Wanda Jones, plays flute. Wanda Jones is from Romulus, Michigan. She plays the Native American flute to honor her Native American heritage. She is a member of the Meherrin Indian tribe of Winton, North Carolina, where her father's family hails from. She has been playing for over 20 years, performing at festivals, celebrations, weddings, hospitals, and community programs. We warmly welcome Wanda to the stage.
Hi, I'm going to be playing the Native American flute. I'd also like to share some history or some stories about the Native American flute. In some circles, it's been called the love flute. The Lakota tribe has a legend that there was a young man that was smitten with a young woman that didn't give him the time of day. So he did not know how to go about getting her attention. So he left the tribal grounds to go and think, and came across a branch and was inspired to carve it into a flute to make a beautiful sound. And when he returned, the young woman heard the flute and it melted her heart. And that's how their love story began. Okay. My first selection is called Melodious Yearnings. How many times have you yearned to see someone, to do something different, to honor someone, and you're unable to see them, okay? And this is what this composition is about. next selection is called Peaceful Solitude. And my last selection is called Infinite Grace. Thank you.
Wanda, thank you for sharing your rich history and your beautiful music with us today. There are so many reasons for this show and many special people to thank. First of all, thanks to Notorious RBG, who fought for women and men and their rights. You are an inspiration. Hang in there. Thanks to the women who made it possible for us to celebrate the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote, especially at this time in history when women's rights are being threatened. Thanks to the other 8 women who agreed to participate and make art for this project. At this time, will you please join me on stage? When I say your name, will you please come and see me and give me a bump? Sylvia Ford, photographer. Patricia Izo, photographer. Rose Lewandowski. Does wonders with clay and digital art. Martine McDonald, painter. Oh, see? Valerie Mann, who embroidered those incredible dresses out there. And thank you to her models. This bump thing is new to me. I'm more of a hugger. I'm having a hard time with it. Charlene Ursi. Creator of the furniture. L.G. Washington, painter. And Jenny Wheeler, painter. Thank you for sharing your visions, your suggestions, your spirits, your kindness. All right, Mom, I wore this dress for a reason. You have gone beyond my expectations in so many ways. Thanks for making the show complete. It shines with your compassion, your emotion, and your strength. I can't thank you enough. I told you they were troublemakers. Thank you to the women who came to perform and share their talents. Wanda Jones, flautist, and Brianna Yan, dance choreographer. Will you also please come to the stage? Maybe they're backstage? Thank you to Cheryl Zemke for letting me borrow one of your creations, a red dress to paint. Thanks to Tim Tanakella, he keeps telling me, and Jim Aho, who I watched curate and ultimately gave me confidence to do this. With love and thanks to my mom for her strength, for raising 8 kids with humor and dedication, and for her resilience against the rages of dementia. A disease that affects women in much higher numbers than men. My In Her Closet series represents the many lost to dementia but not forgotten. Their belongings, her belongings, and their belongings tell a story of who they were. We lost my mom in February of 2019. But she lives on through me. A proud daughter who remembers by painting her possessions in trees. My way of expressing that her beauty remains in my heart by virtue of my paintbrush. Thank you to my daughter, Angeline, who took the photo of my mom filling out her ballot, inspiring my painting called Final Ballot. And last but not least, first and foremost, the notorious Ann Yan, who led me toward Redress, the group of installation artist Jamie Black, the reason I now paint red dresses and trees. And there is not enough thank yous for all you have done and for being my behind-the-scenes curator. Your guidance and expertise helped me make this event what it is. I have something for you too, a card that I will give you later. Well, no, come on up here and get it. Just kidding, if I have to be up here, you have to be up here. Thanks to each person who purchased a t-shirt, clothing that unites us in an appropriate statement of womanhood. And to all of you who are here right now, viewing and sharing this vision, women and men alike, especially my husband Ralph, who support the rights of women, the arts of women, and the spirit of women. In conclusion, I'd like to read a poem I wrote called When There Are Nine. When there are nine, perhaps we will raise our children instead of raising symbols. When there are nine, perhaps we will stand by young mothers instead of pushing them down. When there are nine, perhaps we will support public education instead of punishing teachers and districts. When there are nine, perhaps we will tax the corporations instead of the corporations taxing us. When there are nine, perhaps we will address climate change instead of denying science and reason. When there are nine, perhaps we will find resources for healthcare instead of bombs and missiles. When there are nine, perhaps we will accept the right of choice instead of legislating away control. When there are nine, perhaps we will champion social causes instead of trading them off to the moneymakers. When there are nine, perhaps more men will take women seriously instead of referring to us as body parts. And when there are nine, perhaps the world will embrace justice instead of accepting lies. When there are nine, perhaps we will buy red dresses for Indigenous women instead of hanging them in trees. Thank you. Please enjoy the exhibit. Please celebrate all women's achievements today.
thank Charlene Welton. She's done a beautiful job curating this exhibit, and we have seated them all so you can get a picture if you'd like of the night.
Care